Remember growing up making the perfect mixtape was an art? It would take hours or even days to get the mood just right. It's an art that's nearly been lost in today's drag and drop digital playlist world.
We're four friends of 35 years with many, many mixtapes between us. Join us each episode as we pick a theme, discuss the songs, and build an infinite mixtape. Welcome to the MixTape Diaries.
Hey everybody, it's your MixTape Diarists, arriving a little earlier than maybe you thought, with a different kind of episode than you might expect. But let me tell you how this all came together. I was walking down the street the other day and I ran into a few fans. So I was walking down the street the other day, and this probably has happened to you guys too. In fact, I think a few of you told me about it. You run into some fans. They're very happy to see you. Oh, bro, you're Brad from the MixTape Diaries. And I'm like, how did you know? You've only heard my voice. And they're like, oh, we're stalking you. And okay, cool. And then it kind of started to look a little bit threatening. And they said, we're not getting enough content from you. You drop these things once a month, and it's great, right? Best 2 hours of our month. But what do we do in between? And so, I brought this to the attention of the other three, and we talked about it, and we thought, we could serve you guys better. We could be more regular in what we drop. That sounds horrible.
No, I mean, you drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
We could make our droppings more regular, is what we were saying.
Right. I need a little more regular in my life,
And another thing we've been thinking about is we do the theme episodes, and there's a lot of stuff that we want to add to the playlist that's not on theme. So this is our way of, we figured we'd give you a few songs, not a bunch of songs, but we'd each pick a song today, and there's no particular theme. It's a song we want to talk to you guys about.
I think essentially it's because we want to go off topic so much, and now we've got a grab bag, right? That's what it comes down to.
It's a grab bag. Yeah.
It's like, what am I in the mood? I think what the listeners need to know is that a lot of preparation goes into these episodes prior to us going on air, and there's a lot of banter, and we throw a lot of music at each other that's just really random, mood-based, depending on the day, right? So I think this will give you a little bit of a lens into maybe a little bit of the behind the scenes of the MixTape Diaries. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, and kind of like what you're listening to right now. And
Yeah. All right. Well, let's do it. I'm excited. This is quite a potluck that we're about to embark on as far as music goes.
It's a dance across the decades.
A cornucopia of songs.
A smorgasbord of delights.
Plethora of adventure. Who wants to go first?
Who does want to go first?
I can go first.
I don't want to have to call on somebody.
Ladies first. There it is.
I can go first.
Ladies first.
So I, honestly, this is oddly a new song for me. And it just, the algorithm is just has been serving up some good songs in recent weeks. And this song, Rip It Up by Orange Juice, which was released in 1982, came up, and I could not stop listening to this song. And I think I might have sent it around at some point, but this was a Scottish indie pop band, also kind of known as a jangle pop band. They emerged during that post-punk era. They cite Television and the Buzzcocks and the Velvet Underground as inspiration. Rip It Up was their only UK top 40 hit, and this song is just a fun jam. Like, everything about it has these like chic inspired guitars, and there's disco oriented synths. This is actually the first song to use a Roland TB-303. I don't know what that means. I just read it off my notes. But
I'm like, what did you call me?
It's a synth that's meant to simulate bass guitars. And it was just a fun song. I just thought it was just a great little jam.
If I could have held you, I would have held you. Jump right and swallow my pride. Rip it up and start again. Rip it up and start again. I hope God you're not as down as you make up.
I love this. I mean, everybody had to curb my enthusiasm before we went on air. I'd never heard this.
He's beside himself.
I was beside himself because similar to Mike Myers, if it's not Scottish, it's crap, is a philosophy I tend to lean into. And I don't know, I'd never heard this either, Carla. Like, I actually told Carla I thought this was a new release. And then when I looked it up, it turned out it was released in like 1983. I was out doing my little 3-mile walk, and I'm sure people who saw me were making total fun of me because I was grooving to this. Like, I've just listened to it nonstop since you introduced it. So well played. I was saying to Carla, I didn't realize that Edwyn Collins was in this band and also the primary songwriter. So I think I actually know Edwyn Collins and am more familiar with that, from his releases in the mid 90s than I was with this band, which is where he got all of his start. Right. And so, I mean, amazing. And I think that A Girl Like You is the worldwide hit from Edwyn Collins that everybody knows. And God, so anyway, I'll shut up now, but God,
well, it's funny
so good,
that,
Carla.
It's funny that you feel like this is a new song because it totally feels like it could be something new. Like it has just enough of a different sound that you're like, oh man, this is like, where did this come from? It's a great song.
I thought it was cool in that it sounded both old and new. Like I could pick out kind of the disco kind of piece of it, but then also just like a good pop song. It was funny.
It's cutting and pasting in a way that bands do more now than they did back then. Chic inspired, by the way, is dramatic understatement. I was like, that's that Chic song, isn't it? And then I had to go figure out what the song was. It's Good Times by Chic. It's like the exact guitars from that. And then he's quoting the Buzzcocks, and you're thinking, I don't think the Buzzcocks and Chic run in the same circles, but they do.
Surely not.
And the song he quotes is Boredom, which is that's
it's like
top of the
Buzzcock,
line Buzzcocks. Yeah. No, this is good stuff. This is really good stuff. Another point I think I mentioned to you in one of our Krautrock episodes. Please, everybody, listen to Carla and Brad talk about Krautrock. I was talking about that book about post-punk that Simon Reynolds from NME wrote. It's called Rip It Up and Start Again. And so when I heard this song, I was like, but then I thought, this doesn't sound like what I usually think about post-punk being. So I wanted to kind of go and make sure that was he quoting that song? And he was quoting the song. There's a whole album about the Scottish bands and orange juice that he there's a whole chapter about the Scottish bands and orange juice that he goes and I just haven't gotten to that part of the book yet. But Aztec Camera came out around the same time, it looks like.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought there was a note in something that I had read about them that their sound came to be called the Postcard sound, which they were on Postcard Records. And it says that it directly influenced bands like Haircut 100 and The Smiths. So
right. You can tree it out, I guess.
Okay.
So just one other comment about orange juice. My favorite line in all of television is the scene in The Sopranos where Tony comes out into the driveway, brandishing a bottle of Tropicana at his wife, who's furious with him because he's been cheating on her. And he's like, I like the kind that says some pulp. Anyway, that's my all-time favorite movie line. And it's orange juice related, so I thought I'd share it.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
So there you go. All right, Mark, why don't you hit yours up?
Yeah, sounds good. I feel like my song goes a little bit actually to the modern era. This is I picked what did I pick? Where am I? Who are you?
I don't know. What did you pick? Because you picked it this morning.
Ouch.
I can't remember. It's something about a deli.
What? I did not pick it this morning. FYI. I picked it last night.
It depends on
California
your time zone.
Well, again, so I'm getting nailed on a technicality. And it's not my fault that I'm 3 hours behind, so I can kind of, work it out. I was all over the place trying to figure stuff out. I've been kind of listening to a bunch of stuff all week. There's been a bunch of new releases. So I'm like, oh, maybe this is a good way to get new music on it. And so I kind of ended up landing there, right? I mean, don't you think?
Sure.
2020 release. Yeah.
I mean, I think a 2020 release feels pretty good. The band is called Corey Flood, and they are a trio out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I guess you're probably saying, how do I know that name, Corey Flood? Where does that come from? Well, funny enough, Corey Flood was also a character's name in the 1989 John Cusack film Say Anything. And she was, as everybody remembers, Corey was the teenage girl who writes the songs about her ex-boyfriend, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Joe lies when he cries. And
Lily Taylor.
Yeah. So in similar fashion, this trio of girls kind of writes what they self-proclaim themselves as kind of dark, kind of Philly-based dark rock or basement goth. And so no surprise that I would really kind of love this. This is a band I kind of stumbled upon from another friend of mine who had posted the album cover, and I always kind of was like, oh, I'm not familiar with these guys. And so I kind of dove into it. And they released an EP in 2018, and then in 2020 they came out with their full-length album. And this is, I just think, really, really good stuff. There's a decent amount of good bass line in this music, so it's probably no surprise that I would kind of get into, kind of deep churning bass and kind of eerie vocals, but I felt like that's what I kind of got out of this. So
The album's called Hanging Garden.
yes,
Which
sorry.
made me think for the Cure fan to pick it. Yep, there it is.
Big surprise, right? Yeah, so I think I've been really enjoying this. I've probably been in on it for, I don't know, maybe 2 months now that I've been kind of discovered this band and listening to it. The song I picked off the album was called Park Deli 7, and I think you'll really enjoy it.
Sometimes we make bad decisions just because we can.
It felt a little beach housey to me when I
Yeah.
first listened to it.
And amazingly enough, Beach House's new album just dropped as well, right? So
Oh, that's right.
all these connections.
I thought this was a fun listen. This was good. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of. I mean, we're all going to say different things, I think. But I have this Betty Servier album, which I love a lot, and I don't know. It just kind of hit me like a couple of the songs on that. Just kind of brooding, but pretty, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, post punky, which is of course where we all live. It's a
Right.
good neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, I don't know, it's just kind of got that, I guess it's kind of dreamy, atmospheric, and yet the content is about kind of angsty, strained relationships, the whole 9 yards. So I think it's just fun to try and rotate a little bit of newness, and that was my whole goal for today, or with us, was to kind of bring some like newer stuff to the table, but clearly always linked to the stuff we're always talking about. So, like you said, I like my neighborhood and I enjoy living into it. Even if people are renovating homes so that they look more modern, I still like that they're sticking with the classic lines. So,
So on that score, why don't I jump in next and take you back
Yeah.
more than 50 years from this? So what I picked was "Piece of My Heart" by Big Brother and the Holding Company, fronted by Janis Joplin, psychedelic band. This came out in 1968. This was the one album, Cheap Thrills, that Janis did with Big Brother and the Holding Company, which survived her, but probably didn't flourish without her. This is classically the kind of song that I would have hated for 35 years of my life, maybe even longer. Right? This is the freedom rock. This was most assuredly went up the screen when those two guys were like, well, turn it up, man. Right? And everything that was listed on that track list was alien and wrong to me and just didn't hit me anything. It just didn't mean anything to me. And I was tired of hearing about people talk to me about how great the 60s were. And I don't know, something's happened, right? I reached back into the 70s, late 70s, and then I kind of reached back a little further into the early 70s. And now I feel like I'm kind of parked in this psychedelic stuff that I just like a lot. And this isn't especially trippy. It's really bluesy. And I hate blues-based rock. So I guess I'm trying to figure out in real time why I like this song so much. Except that I guess she just deals it here. I mean, she just unloads in this song. And I love the guitars. It just rocks. And I think it's one of those songs that I'd maybe heard pieces of my heart. And so I kind of knew what it was, but when I sat down and played the whole thing, I thought, oh yeah, this. There's a reason why Janis Joplin was famous, and all the stuff that kind of annoyed me about her with the sunglasses and the peace signs, and it just seemed so like such a caricature of what people celebrate, which I think was dumb or thought was dumb. I don't know, man. I just love this song. I've been playing it a ton.
I need you to come on, and take another little piece of my heart now, baby. Bring another little bit of my heart now, yeah, come on now. Have another little piece of my heart now, baby. You know you got it.
One of the things I always find interesting about these old songs, and this will, I'll touch on this a little bit with my song, is that a lot of these recordings tend to be like a single recording. And I think that's one of the things that kind of grabs you sometimes about some of these older songs, is that you know that this band sat down and played this song, and this is the recording. Now, whether they did it 5 or 6 times to finally get a take that they liked, or if they did it one time, like, you know that they were shredding this song while they were playing it because they were going to record it, and that there was no, well, we're going to record this track and that track and this track and put it all together and put the good tracks together. That this was a recording of the song as they played it.
It's just raw.
Right.
It's raw, and it makes sense that the guitar should sound raw because she's feeling raw, right?
Right.
And it's I don't know. You get the sense that right, there was no post-production here. There was no cleaning this up. It's just you take it as is, and it's played. I wouldn't say beautifully. It's played rockingly.
Yeah.
Raucously.
I wonder if that's why we hear so many live recordings too from that era, is that it was easy. Like, you got everybody together, everything was mic'd up, we're going to record it, and boom, it's done. And that, you know, you don't have the expense necessarily of studio time and things like that. So you hear these recordings that you know are all those musicians were together in making that recording.
And I think, and maybe I'm kind of putting my finger on why I like it. Like, there's a lot of blues-based rock out there that is really polished, like Eric Clapton, hitting every note perfectly, produced. Like, it doesn't, you don't feel anything as a result. And I've always felt like, well, then why are you playing the blues? Like, right? If you can't make me feel anything.
Yeah.
But like the White Stripes play the blues, right? I don't know if you saw that documentary with him and Jimmy Page and the Eds, where he's just like hacking together a guitar in his backyard out of like wood and string, and you know, and he plugs it in and it sounds crappy and he's jamming on it, and you're like, yeah, like that's what it should be.
That's such a great movie.
Yeah, and this just seems to be in that category, as opposed to a lot of this other kind of, I don't know. I was listening to some Dire Straits the other day, and I'm like, I just can't. It doesn't do it for me.
Oh, really?
There's just no like emotion there.
Yeah, it feels too polished. It doesn't have like the grittiness of a lot of, and it really just depends on where that blues rock is coming from too. Mississippi blues is different from Chicago blues is different for, so I find personally I tend to like that Mississippi Delta blues more because there's just more like heart and soul in it.
Way more soulful. Yeah.
It feels more bluesy,
Yes.
for lack of a better term, right?
So I thought about this for a couple of episodes because we could have done it for our oldies, and we could have done it for our. I guess it didn't really count as a female solo act because at this point it was Janis Joplin in Big Brother and the Holding Company, and maybe that's why I didn't pull the trigger there. But so I'm glad we have this outlet because we can throw some stuff in that maybe we wished we could have done earlier.
I don't think I realized that this was a cover until just reading about it. That it was actually originally recorded by Irma Franklin, who was a gospel and soul singer. I've never listened to that version of it.
I'm just in shock that this is a song selection from
Yeah, no, I know.
you. I don't think there's a soul that's alive that's not heard the song, even if you're like 10 at this point, or maybe if you're 10, you haven't heard it. But I mean, it's such a well-known song. Janis is so well-known. I mean, but for you to throw this out of all people, like, I'm like, man, you are really exploring beyond your wheelhouse.
Good for you,
No,
Brad.
yeah,
Good for
yeah.
you.
You're growing.
It was good to listen to this song again. 'Cause
Spreading my wings.
I can't say that I've listened to this, or I would even think to listen to this song. And living in Nashville, I've heard a lot of really bad versions of this song. So then
Yeah.
Yeah,
it
I can
kind
imagine.
of turns you off from it a little bit. So it was actually nice to go back and listen to the real version of it, to really, as a reminder of the power of Janis Joplin's voice.
Yeah.
Can you think of the last time, Brad excluded, since he's been thinking about this, and sorry if I cut you off there, Brad, but like he's been thinking about this, obviously, but for the rest of us, when's the last time you even heard or listened to anything Janis Joplin on purpose? Like, other than in a car commercial, right? Like, I can't think. And I rock this out like maybe 3 times in the last 72 hours, like once a day. And it's really fucking good when you turn it up loud. It just is.
Yeah. Well, so, and I'm fishing around trying to find good psychedelic rock. And I think a lot of it is like some of that United States of America that we were playing, right? Where like, all right, let's get the calliope out and we'll sing a folk song. And I'm like, no, God damn it. Like, plug in the amps, This isn't Hendrix because they're not good enough. But in a way, it's I kind of maybe enjoy it more because I don't have to chase all these notes. They're just kind of cutting it loose, and then she sings. I'm like, all right, okay, well that's where a lot of the power is coming from. I would have never said that I'd have landed here. You talked to me 10, 15, 20 years ago.
No way, Jose. No way. I still love the Mercedes-Benz song by Janis. That's still my favorite song by her.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah, I like that song too.
Well, yeah, it was a fun pick because, like Mark said, like it kind of reintroduces you to it. So I guess I'm last here. So, we've already talked about a cover and Carla talking about the algorithm giving you things that you'd never expect. So my song is a cover. It's Bop by Hanson. But it's covered by a band called Scary Pockets, and it's featuring an artist, the singer, Lucy Schwartz. So we're going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole here.
I'd say a lot of a rabbit hole.
So this song to me is a cool cover. The band Scary Pockets is kind of interesting because they're really a band. They only do covers, but the songs that they do are rearrangements of songs to basically turn them all into kind of funk songs. So all of the songs end up with kind of this different rearrangement that gives them either kind of a funk or a blues kind of feel. So that starts to give you an idea of where this version of this song is going to go. So the members of the band, the singers for all of their songs are almost always featured artists, which is kind of interesting. The band Scary Pockets is based in Los Angeles, and the main members of the band are Ryan Lerman and Jack Conte. So Ryan Lerman is kind of interesting because he is the bassist for Ben Folds and the guitarist for Michael Bublé, and he's John Legend's musical director. So this is a guy that knows his way around a band, probably. And Jack Conte is kind of interesting because he's a guy that's been a musician primarily for a long, long time. He is half of the band Pomplamoose, which he started with his wife, Natalie. And most notably and most recently, he's the CEO of Patreon, which is a huge website now for independent artists to have patrons basically help them create their art. So one of the things that's kind of interesting is that Jack Conte lives up near San Francisco, and once a month he flies down to Los Angeles, and he gets all of his bands together, Scary Pockets, Pomplamoose, and he dabbles in a couple other things now, and then they record for a couple days, and they make videos primarily of their songs. So one of the things that's interesting about this particular cover, and that Scary Pockets kind of prides itself on, is when you watch their videos, that's it. That there isn't a lot of post-production, that they sit down as a band and they play, and what you see in the video is what they did. Now, of course, that changed a little bit during the pandemic, where they did some things a little more remotely. But this song kind of popped up. I was doing something in YouTube a week or so ago. It popped up on the side, and I'm like, well, like what's this? So then I played it, and I haven't stopped playing it since. I've probably listened to it 2 or 3 times a day.
You can plant any one of those. Keep planting to find out which one grows. A secret no one knows. It's a secret no one knows. No one knows.
The video is crazy because you can tell that they're all having a ton of fun. And so then that gets me to the singer, Lucy Schwartz, that's featured in this song. So one of the things that I love about this song is that, and this is something that I think is kind of rare in what you hear in songs these days, you can hear that she is smiling while she's singing this song. And I love that you can get that kind of feeling from her vocals, that they are obviously having a ton of fun singing this song. Her voice is ridiculous. It's just, to me, it's totally insane that she's got this crazy voice and isn't a bigger star than she is right now. But that's where things start to get a little interesting with her. She has opened for Sarah McLachlan, Sheryl Crow, Toad the Wet Sprocket. She has toured in Lilith Fair. She has.
Does she like ice cream?
But she writes songs. It's kind of interesting. She has a song in a Shrek movie. She's written songs for a couple of the Twilight movies. And she has written a song for Arrested Development, which her father wrote.
You got there.
He wrote the soundtrack for Arrested Development. She's one of these working musicians in Los Angeles. And so undoubtedly that's how Jack Conte came across her is that probably everybody in Los Angeles at some point has worked with her on something, so it was natural for him to bring her in as one of their musicians.
Sarah McLachlan, Sheryl Crow, Toad the Wet Sprocket, whatever. She sang Mr. F on Arrested Development.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah. She has such a great voice. That's such a fun song from Arrested Development. This video is a ton of fun. The song is a great song. I love the arrangement of it, but the video to me is totally what sells the version of this song, because you can tell that they're all having a blast playing this song. So
this song is great on its own. I mean, I like the Hanson. Can I say that?
You can say
I like
it.
the Hanson version. I play it all the time.
Are you serious right now? You guys, I forgot that I wrote this in a text, but I'm saying it again because it's like apparently you're giving me shit for Sarah McLachlan, and we're gonna talk about loving Hanson. Like, really?
It's like the Jackson 5, and I got like you could say. So Sarah McLachlan is like Joni Mitchell. They both suck, but like Hanson is like the Jackson 5. Like
Hanson is not like the Jackson 5, and I
in
never
many
thought
ways they're not.
I would,
because there's 3. There's only 3.
I just never thought I would be in a conversation about Hanson and Mbop as long as we've spent today talking about it. At least
It's a great composition.
I mean, it was jaw-dropping enough that Janis Joplin showed up today, but like I just never thought we'd be talking about Mbop.
well, there you go.
I'm here for you, Bob, because that is it's a beautiful composition. I love that song.
I'm not bagging on the cover. I was really floored by it. And funny enough, this song, since its debut 20 years ago by Hanson, it's apparently approximately 93,000 cover versions of this song were counted by MTV reporter Patrick Hoskin in
crazy.
March of 2016.
I couldn't count to 93,000.
I'm going to say his
in the
interns
month of
did
March.
that.
Yeah, he
right.
didn't do it, but he reported it. Interestingly enough, the Hansons told Vulture magazine that they'd never heard any good cover version of it because they said people can't sing the chorus right. But later in 2019, so about 3 years later, on the official Hanson Twitter feed, which I know you're all following, they shared the video by Scary Pockets. So
There you go.
your version, Noel, that you've shared with the world
it's the
here on the MixTape
definitive cover version.
Hanson has endorsed it. It's the official endorsed version, whatever the fuck that means.
Well, so has my dear friend and Hanson superfan Erin Ketty, who I just texted this to, and she came back and said, "No, I've not heard this, but it is fantastic," all in capitals. So
Hanson super fan. What's wrong with that statement?
So I guess just to wrap up here real quick, Scary Pockets and Pamplemousse are definitely 2 bands that you should check out. They really specialize in covers, and tons of fun stuff in there. So it's definitely a rabbit hole you can go down. Once you go onto Scary Pockets, both of those bands are primarily YouTube bands. They really specialize in making videos. Once you hit one of their channels and you just start going through, they've been around for years, so they have tons of content. You start going through, and they've covered everything you could think of, and their arrangements are always incredibly creative. They don't always work, but sometimes you hear them and you're like, maybe I like this version better than the original. So they're definitely fun bands to check out.
yeah, Pamplemousse is great. I've watched a number of their things on YouTube, but the NPR podcast How I Built This, that is a great episode with Jack Conte on how he started Patreon, and he talks a lot about the origins of Pamplemousse and how they ended up with the Patreon model. It's a good podcast listen.
He's pretty cool too because he's super open about how they do things, and it is kind of interesting too. Not too long ago, they did a video about how Pamplemousse operates as a business and how they're able to keep doing what they're doing. And it is kind of interesting. He's super upfront about the fact that he's the CEO of a company that's worth well over $1 billion. But this is the thing that he likes to do. And he's involved in enough other projects that really, if you let the algorithm kind of play some games with you, you'll start to find a bunch of other stuff that he's involved in that's super cool. So
I have a couple parting thoughts here. One, Pamplemousse is a really good La Croix sparkling water flavor too. And two, you seem to have a thing for female leads that left bands or that go on to do a lot of really good stuff in and around like television and movie and kind of essentially are like kind of cornerstones of the music industry and entertainment industry, because I seem to remember Kay Hanley being called out here a few episodes ago by you, who had very similar influence within music and music as it relates to television and movies, right? So I think here's another one with Lucy Schwartz. You're kind of really into these types of singers.
like working musicians.
Yeah.
They pop up in bands. And Lucy Schwartz has recorded a couple of her own albums and things like that. But I think both of these bands, Pamplemousse and Scary Pockets, really are comprised of the musicians in those bands are working musicians. So it's kind of cool that those folks kind of get these neat outlets to get out there and get themselves showcased and things like that. So, but I'm always a sucker for a great female voice every single time.
I stand for Hanson.
Well, so there you go, guys. They're for kind of random picks. I think things that we're listening to now or that just have randomly popped up. It is kind of fun. Sometimes the algorithm works right, and it gives you things that are worth listening to. It doesn't always do a good job, but sometimes it does.
Well, we are an algorithm, right? We're creating an algorithm.
Maybe.
I think it's interesting that we had two songs here that were essentially post-punk, either living the real post-punk movement or heavily influenced by it. Carla's being the actual post-punk movement, my selection kind of being heavily influenced, and then two crazy batshit out of nowhere songs that no one expected to have on here with you and Brad. So I think there are some themes here that kind of synced up with the 2 and 2, and we didn't even try to do that.
No, and I think that'll be the fun thing about as we start to do some of these shorter episodes, although this one's getting a little longer, but it's our inaugural shorter version.
We have to practice being short.
Right,
Yeah.
that we'll be able to kind of throw these songs in here that maybe don't go together, but they're songs that we think are worth listening to. So
Yeah, it was nice to, we usually just do this in our text thread, just throw random songs in there.
right.
So now we can talk about them a little
view
more.
into the text thread.
Right now, you listener get to hear what we've been texting for the last couple weeks. So.
The text thread diaries.
All right, guys. Well, take it easy.
Till next time.